welcome to this edition of the Pro Wrestling Show presents the Raw Ring Report. I'm your host as always, Kendrick Dix here. Glad you can join us here on the Pro Wrestling Show. Jump on in here. We'll tell you right here, John Cena returns to Monday Night Raw. The leader of the C Nation, John Cena, makes an appearance on Raw tonight in his hometown, Boston. And John Cena had a lot to say coming up, and he confronted Austin Theory, the United States champion. Will we be seeing that dream match that everyone's been talking about, anticipating? John Cena in Theory. We'll talk about it coming up next. Also, too, we'll talk about this. Sami Zayn takes on Jimmy Uso. Jimmy needs to finish Sammy once and for all. If Jimmy got ultimatum about the tribal chief, the undisputed champion Roman Reigns, that if he does not provide results to bring his brother back into the fold of the bloodline, there's going to be some serious, dire consequences. The dire consequences came at the end, and we'll get to it coming up. That many people didn't see coming, but I expected it. I knew it was coming. I just didn't think it was going to come so soon, so often. I thought they were going to wait till SmackDown, but they pulled the trigger right then and there. We'll talk about that as well as another thing. Logan Paul and Seth Rollins will met face to face. Will they have their WrestleMania confrontation? Will it be a WrestleMania match between these two men? We'll get to it coming up as well. As well as this. Bianca Belair, the Raw Women's Champion, takes on former nemesis and competitor Carmella. Carmella kind of being wedged in between Bianca Belair and Asuka before Asuka and Bianca's upcoming WrestleMania match for the Women's Championship. We'll talk about that. As well as familiar faces. Finn Balor versus Johnny Gargano in a match that really Finn Balor issued the challenge. We'll talk about that as well. So a lot to get to. Also, too, coming up in Hot Topics, and I say this on Hot Topics coming up, as well as we're gonna talk about this. We're gonna talk about China. China on the A&E docuseries, she pioneered women's wrestling. She revolutionized women's wrestling, went against male competitors. I'll give you my review of what I thought about the China A&E WWE Legends biopic, as well as WWE returning back what China used to be participating in, the King of the Ring. She was the first woman to qualify for the King of the Ring. This time it's the King and Queen of the Ring event. It'll be on Peacock Memorial Day weekend. We'll talk about that as well. So we're gonna get things started on Raw, on the Raw Ring Report with this. Kevin Owens taking on Solo Sikoa. These two men have no love lost towards each other. That means no love lost whatsoever. These two men battle out in the ring tonight. Solo Sikoa and Kevin Owens went toe to toe, went head to head tonight. And a match that many people were anticipating that what was going to happen. Sami Zayn trying to extend his hand to have him and Kevin Owens come around, but they're both kind of acting like hot and cold, like Russia and the U.S. They're kind of used to be friends. I think Kevin Owens still can't forgive Sami and what Sami did, trying to infiltrate the bloodline, and now Sami needs Kevin Owens. And I think they eventually will come back together. It's just not right now. It's the matter of circumstances right now. So they will kind of come together when you don't least expect it. So look for that as well. Also, too, Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair and Asuka. These two women will meet at WrestleMania for the Raw Women's Championship. Well, they got some problems, including a new team, Carmella and Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green like to call herself the Karen of the WWE, like to report to your manager and stuff. Well, Mella is money in the fabulous gimmick. Well, Carmella and Chelsea Green kind of was teaming up after women's champion Bianca Belair was in action against Carmella in a match. Well, no, Chelsea Green and Carmella may think alike and may have similar stuff in common. I'll say that. These two women might be embroiled into a feud. Look for a tag team match between these four women. Bianca Belair won her match over Carmella with the EST, but Asuka spray misted Carmella, Chelsea Green, giving Chelsea Green something that she didn't expect. But I say look for these two women and the newly found alliance between Carmella and Chelsea Green to take center stage eventually. Also, too, also too, Piper Niven was in action against Nikki Cross. Piper Niven won her match over Nikki Cross, but we'll see how that's going to go. How they're building her up down the road, trying to build up for a championship match against Bianca or Asuka down the road. Also, too, Almost being dominant again. MVP stating that Almost going to defeat Brock Lesnar. I think Almost needs this win over Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania because Almost loses to Brock Lesnar, it's going to be an absolute joke. Almost lost to the Bobby Lashley last year. This year, he's going to lose to Brock Lesnar. All they want to do is just that WrestleMania moment where Brock Lesnar picks his big ass up and do the F5 on him and drop him like a bad habit. But MVP trying to state that Almost is going to beat Brock Lesnar. Almost needs that moment like Brock did to the Undertaker nearly 10 years ago when Brock Lesnar defeated the Street. So that could be a possibility, but Almost needs it more than ever. Speaking of that, the confrontation between Seth Rollins and Logan Paul. Seth Rollins believes Logan Paul is the death of wrestling because of him being an internet star. But many people are praising Logan Paul after he had his three matches. He went against the likes of The Miz. He went against the likes of the Mysterios, Ray and Dominic at WrestleMania. He went against Universal Undisputed Champion Roman Reigns and almost took Roman to the limit. So Logan Paul, many people consider could be the real deal if he could be a champion down the road. Well, Logan Paul and Seth Rollins met on the Miz, who's the host of WrestleMania on Miz TV. Miz acting like the Roddy Piper, and these two men got face to face after Seth Rollins confronted him, and called him a you know what on my face dial. These two men finally met. Well, these men weren't strangers until Miz tried to get involved and try to get physically involved. Logan Paul got involved, and Miz incidentally gave Logan Paul the advantage and kicked Seth Rollins with a knockout punch. I think Logan Paul has some what you call titanium in his arm or his forearm or something in his fist. So he knocked the hell out Seth Rollins like he knocked him out. We want to show you this right here. Just laid him out. Seth Rollins didn't even move, didn't flinch or nothing. I think it was Seth Rollins. He's got his hands full this coming up at WrestleMania. And then it's been made official. Seth Rollins will take on Logan Paul at WrestleMania. These two men equally matched when you think about it, with the aerial attacks and the aerial moves. So who's going to have the upper advantage? Seth Rollins saying he's fighting for the style of wrestling and not for the death of wrestling, as Logan Paul is just trying to make a name for himself as Seth Rollins claimed to be. So we'll just have to wait and see and anticipate that coming up. Also, too, Baron Corbin looking to make a name for himself. Baron Corbin went through hard times and went through falls and pitfalls. He's trying to get in some group or some. He's trying to get the Maximum Male Models. Maximum Male Models female Maxine saying that she'll take him under consideration, but he has to take out Chad Gable and Otis. They really want Otis and turn Otis to a model. I don't get why folks want to utilize Otis like he's a pet project or something. Chad Gable won over Baron Corbin. Chad Gable reminds me of Kurt Angle in a way. He has the athletic prowess. He just don't have the height, but him and Kurt Angle a little bit taller, but Chad's a little bit shorter. But Chad's about 5'8", 5'9". But if Chad was 6'1" or 6'2", they would have WWE would have built him up and pushed him as a star due to his height. But Chad Gable, thanks to him being under the Triple H umbrella, he's getting a chance. But it don't matter. As long as you're a good wrestler, in my book, it don't matter. Just wrestle. If you can wrestle, but Chad Gable reminds me of Kurt Angle in more ways than one. So hey, we'll see how this is gonna progress. Speaking of that, the doctor of Thugonomics, the leader of the C Nation lead, John Cena. John Cena returned to Raw on his hometown in Boston, Massachusetts. John Cena coming back, and John Cena came back with fanfare and entrance and everything else. John Cena came back with a vengeance. John Cena came back to show that he's back, but Austin Theory, the United States champion, kind of interrupted Cena. Cena was talking about how he missed the crowd and the crowd missed him, which you didn't have Cena sucks or nothing. Well, John Cena tried to get Austin Theory a history lesson, teach him about, trying to be like me with the ruthless aggression era, and said he was on the verge of being out or being kicked out. But John Cena now a major motion picture star now, due to the fact of him being in a lot of motion pictures. Well, Theory said that Cena ain't nothing but flash in the pan, and Cena ain't nothing but he idolized Cena, which that's understandable. Saying don't you meet your heroes, and your heroes will turn on you and stuff. That what it turned out to be. John Cena issued a challenge, and the challenge was that accepted by Cena. Cena didn't want. Well, it was Theory that issued the challenge. Cena thought about it, and Cena said, "Yeah, me and you at WrestleMania, so it's official. John Cena will take on Austin Theory for the United States Championship at WrestleMania. This is going to be an instant classic. That match that many people thought that wouldn't happen will happen. It's a dream match. It's the past of WWE. Damn near was the face of WWE the last 15 years ago. I think Cena was the face of WWE until about 2014. I think 2015, 14. In that instance, yeah, 2014, 15. But he was the in the entertainment era. 2000, I say 2004, 2014 ish or something. Then Roman started becoming the face by 2015 ish. For the last 10 years, John Cena was the face of WWE. John Cena and Austin Theory will meet at WrestleMania. Highly anticipated, so we look forward to seeing that. John Cena even brought out to introduce Cody. John Cena and brought out he probably gave Cody his stamp of approval to defeat Roman. John Cena and Cody will meet. John Cena has fought Cody before. Now it's mutual respect. Cody getting John Cena's blessing to go for the world championship, the undisputed title. So hey, there they go. Speaking of that, Lashley issued a warning to Bray Wyatt, and these two men will meet at WrestleMania. Ain't no question about that. I say night one at WrestleMania. Bray Wyatt's gonna let the freaks on out at night. I'm telling you right now. So we're gonna see that at WrestleMania. Speaking of that, women's tag team champions, the new women's tag team champions, Becky Lynch and Lita, won the tag team gold from Damage Control. The Fiend Damage Control, showing that Damage Control what they're all about on leaving Damage Control that. Well, Bailey took issue to that when Trish Stratus was out there praising Becky Lynch and Lita as the new women's tag team champions. Well, that match set up another WrestleMania match, a WrestleMania Dream match. Damage Control. The team consists of Bailey, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky taking on new women's tag team champions Becky Lynch, Lita, and Trish Stratus. Said to Bailey, she was retired, but she's unretired, and she's going to compete at WrestleMania in that 6-woman tag team match. So we look forward to seeing that match. Becky Lynch, Trish, Lita taking on Damage Control at WrestleMania in a huge 6-woman tag team match. So we look forward to seeing that. Speaking of that, Edge, Edge will probably watching this match closely. As Finn Balor, the leader of the leader of the Judgment Day, at the Edge had got beaten up. He brought Finn Balor in Judgment Day, and he got kicked out of Judgment Day. Well, Johnny Gargano won to face Finn this week. These two men met before at NXT when Finn had thought he had an ally in well, Johnny Gargano thought he had an ally in Finn. That wasn't the case. That was not the case. As Finn Balor and Finn Balor lost the match. Finn Balor got lost the match due to interference by Edge. Radar Superstar came out of nowhere to help aid Johnny Wrestling, to give Johnny Wrestling the 1, 2, 3 over Finn Balor while Damage Control, while Judgment Day was down now. They didn't help their friend out as soon as they could, but hey, we'll see how that's gonna go and fail out coming up between them. But we know next week on Raw, we know that Finn, we know that Finn Balor took issue. Finn Balor will take on Edge calls out Finn Balor for issue a match at WrestleMania. Will Finn Balor accept? We'll find out and see. Speaking of that, Elias taking on Bronson Reed next week on Raw, as well as Women's Champion Bianca Belair taking on Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green gonna use her carrying ways again, but we just have to wait and see on that one as well. So hey, speaking of that, we told you earlier that Sami Zayn came out there on a crusade to see if he can convince Kevin Owens to join him. Well, Sami Zayn couldn't get Kevin Owens to join him, but he had to fight Jimmy Uso that night on Raw. He even tried to get KO to agree, but KO still didn't want to agree to it. But hey, it is what it is. Well, that left a match right there. Sami Zayn took on Jimmy Uso, but the events were shocking. I mean, shocking. Jay Uso came out there. Sami Zayn defeated Jimmy, and we thought that Jimmy and Jay were going to be at odds again. Well, Sammy thought at first he embraced it, Jimmy, and then next thing you know, Jay turned on Sammy, which I knew it was going to happen. I just knew it. Jay, you can't trust Jay Uso. Jay saying blood is thicker than water. Jay went out there and attacked him out of nowhere and left Sammy out. Cody Rhodes came out there to help rescue Sammy. This vendetta is far from over. I wish they would have saved that for SmackDown. So Sammy would have came out there and got set up to get beat down like that. Then on Raw, it was just too quick. I just knew that should have been saved on SmackDown. Right. You know, this gonna set up the tag team championship match, the Usos versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. It's gonna tell you that right now. So looking forward to seeing that coming up. But interesting to note that could Cody Rhodes be the one to put Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn back together? It's gonna happen. It's probably happen this week on SmackDown. That's what they're probably doing. So we just have to wait and see on that one. But this Raw was so okay. John Cena issuing the challenge against Austin Theory. That's one of the highlights. Seth Rollins and getting Seth Rollins and Logan Paul fighting. So we'll see that match coming up at WrestleMania. A lot of WrestleMania implications coming down. So even that match that Jay and all them was in. We're looking forward to seeing that at WrestleMania. So WrestleMania is only merely 20 days, a couple of days, at least 20 days away. So it's getting closer and closer. 25 days at least. All right, that ends the Raw Ring Report. We're going to move forward to Wrestling Hot Topics. On Wrestling Hot Topic, there were reports by Sean Ross Sapp that Mr. McMahon was at the side of Raw. Why is Vince McMahon, of all people, who is the chairman of WWE again since returning back to the post since January, Mr. McMahon back into the fray again? He's gonna be mailing into something. You know, it just won't be Vince McMahon if he didn't. There was a report from Sunrise Sapp. We know that Vince had a key interest into changing some of the matches. So especially with the Almas and Bobby Almas Brock Lesnar match. So only time will tell on that. So we still trying to see what's going on with Vince McMahon, but we'll see. WWE even announced this week that the tonight that the WWE King and Ring and Queen of Ring will turn the tournament to crown a new King and Queen of Ring tournament. To come your way Saturday, May 27th on Peacock. Well, in Saudi Arabia, why would they even have a King and Queen of the Ring match? But even in Saudi Arabia, that tells you something. What's going on right there? So hey, we'll get to see that one coming up, as well as Bianca Belair and tag team champion Becky Lynch was at the Kids Choice Awards. They both was there representing for WWE in their Kids Choice Awards attire. So hey, we'll see that. Also, too, Liv Morgan comforting the girl from SmackDown who was crying uncontrollably when Liv lost her match to Rhea Ripley. That they say Rhea Ripley even scaring kids going forward. So hey, we'll see that coming up. So Liv comforting her and giving her something to cheer for. So hey, Liv probably is an inspiration. So hey, you know how that be. Speaking of that, Jake the Snake Roberts' ex-wife Cheryl Roberts revealed in her Facebook post that her and Jake Roberts are back together. She said she loves Jake, but the addiction was just too much, and Jake cleaned himself up. Nice docu series piece on Jake Roberts, telling about his life and career in WWE and outside WWE, and good piece by A&E. A&E provides those good docu series piece, those biography piece. So it was real good. Speaking of another piece that A&E did yesterday was the documentary of China. China broke, you know, broke ground, becoming the first woman to do everything. The first woman to compete in the Royal Rumble, compete in the King of the Ring, and the first woman to achieve the highest accomplishment, winning the Intercontinental Championship. China was a trailblazer, and she continued on. They talked about her rise, her fall. China was a legend indeed. And, they talked about her last years, which that was kind of sad. They've been docu-series that for a long time. So China may not be here in spirit, but she will always be remembered. It's almost been about what? Almost that's 16, almost 7 years. Damn, damn. China been dead, almost deceased in 7 years. Wow, maybe she rest in peace. Also, too, they announced the 2K23 season pack. You see the Steiner brothers, Zeus, the lovely Eve Torres, and SmackDown commentator Wade Barrett all be on the DL on the downloadable content pack. So, looking forward to seeing that if you want to play that when AEW gonna put their game out, but we'll wait and see. Coming up this week, this Wednesday, we'll talk about the AEW Dynamite Ring Report where that vicious match that many people consider MJF's best match against Daniel Bryan in that Iron Man match where they both were Crimson Mask. So we'll talk about it this week on the Pro Wrestling Show AEW Dynamite Ring Report, as well as Mercedes. Yes, Mercedes, former Sasha Banks. She doing big things, but I see she's gonna come back WWE. She's just trying to get out of the cage. You know, they say that what the cage bird sings. Just trying to be a cage bird while she'll sing one back. There they go. Speaking of that, Eddie Edwards signed a new deal with Impact Wrestling. He stays on. Right, it want to stay on the Impact Wrestling, but each his own. All right. All right. We're gonna leave you this Raw Ring report. What a Raw Ring report it was feel as we talked about the Jay Uso. Well, we talked about Oscar and everybody else. Jay Uso did what he was want to do. We knew he was gonna do it sooner rather than later. We just didn't know it was gonna be tonight and what kind of swing is gonna be and how would this affect SmackDown this week. But we'll talk about it. It's WrestleMania season. I've been your host, Kendrick Dick, saying so long and thank you for watching the Pro Wrestling Show.